So, I just got back from watching Wes Anderson's Asteroid City, and I was very excited to see this movie, but I have to admit it was not my favorite Wes Anderson movie. In fact, it might be my least favorite. A little intro of my personal history with Wes Anderson. I really like his movies. I think they're cute, they're wonderful, they're very whimsical. They're all very unique compared to anything else Hollywood makes, but then again, they're all kind of the same. They all follow the same format with all of his movies. You have this sense of melancholy, you have this sense of whimsy. There's usually someone who's died. You have a lot of unspoken words that are very powerful. You have this nice pastel color palette. It's just fun. So, usually when you go to these movies, you have an idea of what to expect. As it turns out, this was not what I expected. And I'm happy that he's trying to stretch his creative wings a little bit and gets outside of the usual Wes Anderson format. But for me personally, I was not a fan of what he did here. And most importantly, I'm just mad because I think the trailer was a lie. I think I've been betrayed. It's difficult to do a plot synopsis for the movie because there's two plots going on here. One is the one that we saw in the trailer. Okay, there's a father, he's got his four kids, he's bringing his son to this wonderful science competition in the middle of nowhere in the Nevada desert. Their car breaks down, but it's kind of irrelevant. And a bunch of other people come bringing their kids and brings this wonderful cast of characters together. And then in the middle of the night, a surprising event happens, which isn't really spoiling anything because I think it's in the trailer. A UFO shows up. And we kind of have all the pieces we need to make the usual Wes Anderson movie. The problem is, there is another movie happening here. And when this movie started, I actually thought I had walked into the wrong theater, which is this, were I a more experienced thespian, I could describe better, but it's this whole play within a play. Everything happening in the desert in the whole movie is actually a play happening in front of an audience. And throughout the movie, the characters constantly break the fourth wall and walk into the stage and talk about their problems and their issues with the character and their motivations. And this, for me, just didn't work. It doesn't work on two levels. One is that I think the magic that's contained within Wes Anderson movies is he pulls you into his own little world and you're inside of his mind for an hour and a half. And when you are constantly showing us that actually this isn't happening, this isn't a reality, it's all a dream, it's all a play on the stage, it destroys that beautiful reality that's been created for me. I don't know, I mean, clearly that was his intention, but the problem is it breaks apart and dismantles the whole point of watching a Wes Anderson movie for me. The second issue is that I just don't think it's very good or it's very well done. I'm sure in some college somewhere there's going to be a 6-month course just absolutely licking the rum of this movie, talking about how amazing it was that he did this. But for me, it just doesn't work. It just feels far too much like Birdman. It feels far too much like a director who's gotten high smelling his own farts. And it's funny, the first thing that I thought about after watching this was actually Sindushe, I can't pronounce it right, Sindoshi, New York, which was considered to be like the masterpiece of the century by all these mainstream critics, and that was Charlie Kaufman and, of course, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Charlie Kaufman, if you don't remember, was the genius behind Being John Malkovich. He did Sunshine in the Spotless Mind. He did Adaptation. But then the problem is he's done like 4 or 5 movies after that, and he had reached a point where he was so famous that he was essentially given a blank check. And I think that actually can turn into an issue because sometimes you need that sheer, raw creative genius to be tempered by some wise studio executives who say, listen, let's try to make this a little more accessible to the common audience member. And I think the proof is in the pudding, because all the other Charlie Kaufman movies do not nearly hold as strong a place in the cultural zeitgeist that the previous 3 I mentioned. If I walk up to a person on the street, it's extremely unlikely that they've heard of Anomalisa or Sindushe, New York, or he even made some other one, which I tried and struggled to watch, and it was just too much. I have no doubt that he's a genius, and I'm glad he got a chance to make his movie, but it just isn't for me, and I don't think it's for most people. The other upsetting thing is, in this experiment he's attempted, I don't think he pulled it off. I mean, in general, most of the black and white scenes where we go outside the fourth wall and we're now outside the play stage, it's just a bunch of random nonsense. I mean, I couldn't believe at the end. I thought I was watching The Lighthouse. I mean, it's William Dafoe screaming, you cannot go to sleep if you never wake up. And then the whole audience joins in, and I'm like, holy shit, what happened, my man?
Even any scantling of your soul is Winslow no more, but is now itself the sea.
In terms of the cast, we have a lot of the usual Wes Anderson suspects here. If you look at the movie poster, I think there's about 70 names. It takes up half of the movie poster. But in reality, most of these are cameos so short. We're literally, I mean, Jeff Goldblum's on the poster. You see his face for about 1 second in the movie. But as our main character, we have the usually dependable Jason Schwartzman, who's in virtually every Wes Anderson movie I can think of. I honestly think he's in these movies because he personifies, like, the core of what Wes Anderson is all about, which is, like, this kind of dry, melancholic state. Opposite him, we, of course, have the beautiful Scarlett Johansson playing this movie actress who has given up and just her life has become empty and meaningless. So, of course, they find a very strong common bond through that. And their scenes are some of the best of the movie. They're also, of course, drawn together because both of their children are in the science contest. We've got Jeffrey Wright, as last seen in Westworld Season 1, The Good Season, and Interstellar, kind of playing a down-on-his-luck bureaucratic army general. And then special mention, we've got Maya Hawke playing a school teacher that is the daughter of Uma Thurman. We last saw her in Stranger Things, and I'll tell you, in Stranger Things, she looked kind of like Uma Thurman, beautiful girl. In this movie, she just looks like a 25-year-old Uma Thurman. Like, it was uncanny. Bryan Cranston and Edward Norton play the host of the play/television show, and then Edward Norton is playing the writer of the play, respectively. The less said about this, the better. Not that they're bad actors, it's great. They worked with the material they had, but every time the screen turned black and white and we broke the fourth wall, I just wanted to bundle up and go away and pretend it wasn't happening. And that's the tragedy. I think there's an excellent hour and 25-minute movie here if all that stuff was just edited out. And last but not least, we have Tom Hanks. And what's interesting to me about his part is, you know, it's very common in Wes Anderson movies that people just kind of talk statically and dryly to each other very fast. It's, you know, da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I think when he agreed to be in the movie, he just told Wes Anderson to take a hike. So, unlike virtually any other character, he just sounds like Tom Hanks, and it's great. And that's, you know, once again, this may be intentional. In Wes Anderson movies, you have that kind of dry, fast, speedy dialogue, but in this one, my God, it seemed like everybody was doing it 24/7, and it just became grating at some point. And last but not least, I do have to put out a special mention to Matt Dillon, who I haven't seen in movies for quite a while, but he is really chewing the scenery here as kind of an eccentric local mechanic, so it was always nice when he showed up. The sets, as seen in the trailer above, are beautiful, they're whimsical, it's the usual Wes Anderson standard, very bright pastel floral colors, very simplistic, very cute, and they're fun. And that's, of course, that's 75% of the movie. Then, of course, you have the 25% black and white that it's like I dreaded it, like finding out there was no more pizza left or something in the fridge. So do I recommend this movie? Not really. I think there are beautiful moments here. I think there are wonderful scenes all contained within that glorious 75% Wes Anderson bit. But at the same time, I think all of those scenes can be found in some of his earlier and better movies. You know, if you want to feel that feeling, put on Moonrise Kingdom, put on The Royal Tenenbaums, put on The Life Aquatic, put on The Grand Budapest Motel. There's nothing really here that you can't find in those other movies. Now, what is here that you can't find in those other movies also is a lesser shadow of something you can get better. You know, if you really want that experience, get a degree in theater, win a couple of Tonys, go home, put on Birdman, put your finger up your butt, and smell it the whole time, and you'll get a much more crucial vibe other than what's going here. Anyway, if you like what you heard, consider subscribing, or even better, leave a comment below. I'm more than happy to disagree and argue with people, and I can be turned around. If you thought this was a masterpiece, let me know why. I'm interested. I really want to know. Otherwise, have a great day. Stay safe. See you around.